All right. Also, the other two links, I will send them for you guys at the end of the class. All right.
Okay.
For the other recordings. Okay. So first things first, we just created a red square, right? And you wanted to find out how to copy it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to show you two ways that you can do that. One from the layers palette. Well, three ways actually. Two is really the same thing. So if you identify the layer, the shape layer in the layers palette, and the little eye next to the layer will make it visible or invisible. So that's an easy way to figure out which layer that you're looking at if you have multiple layers and you're not sure. All right. But you could right click on that layer. All right. And you see the option here, duplicate layer.
Okay.
You could do that. And then just give it a second. Sorry, 1 minute. Okay, my Photoshop was just hanging up for a minute. Let's take it again. Okay, so you can right click on the layer and click duplicate layer. And that give me an error for some reason. All right, so it might just be because I have Zoom open. For some reason, it's not duplicating. Let me show you the other way. From the layers palette as well, you can click on the layer that you want and drag it down to this button down here, which is the new layers button. It is button at the bottom of the layers palette.
Yeah.
Right, and then you have a duplicate, so it shows up as rectangle 1 copy. The exact same thing should happen if you right click and select duplicate layer. You should get another layer with the same name, copy, and then you can move them separately like that. All right, so that's how you would create a copy. Let me show you the shorthand way, the easy way if you design it. And normally, one of the reasons why I would probably like to have you in a classroom setting is because I was able to observe, but you typically design with one hand on the keyboard, one hand on the mouse. So you're not gonna be able to see what I'm doing, but I'll actually tell you. If you hold down the Alt key on the keyboard, right, that's the ALT. Notice my cursor changes from a single black-headed arrow when I hold down ALT to a double-headed black and white arrow. See that? And you can click and drag, and that will actually create a duplicate for you. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's two ways you have to duplicate. Now, let me just change the color of one of those squares and address your second question. Second question is, how do you put one over the other? Like in this case, the green square is over the blue square. The red square, sorry. Don't think I colorblind. And if you want to get the red square above the green square, you say you're not sure exactly how to do that. Yeah, was that your question?
I think what I was trying to do was in the scene that I was attempting to create, I think I was trying to put the like, okay, you had a building. I was doing like a building, and then I was trying to put the sky behind the building or something like that, but it was just not going behind.
Okay, it just wasn't going behind. Okay, I'm gonna change my squares to a skyline just to simulate more closely what you're talking about. So we have a building and the skyline, and you're saying essentially the skyline was at the front and you were trying to get the building to go in front, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just give you an example right here. In your layers palette, notice we have 3 layers for the 3 rectangles that are currently in our document, right? The one that is at the back on the document is represented by the one that is further down in the layers palette. So if I were to take that blue rectangle, which is below both other rectangles now, as you can see, right? And I were to move it higher in the layers palette, and to do that, I can just click on the layer and drag it up and drop it where I want it to go in the layers palette. It'll actually change the order of the layers on the document. Yeah. So if I wanted to put it, say, in between, I would just put it in between 2 layers, and then I could have it like this.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
And you had one more question, one more difficulty?
Copy and paste. No, I think that's it for now.
That's
If
it for
I
now.
remember, I will ask. If I remember.
Okay. All right, cool. Anybody else had any other difficulties with manipulating shapes, custom shapes? None?
Oh, also resizing.
Oh, resizing, like to
yeah.
change the size of a. All right. Now, by default, you may have, okay, if you select the move tool, right? And you select the layer that you want to resize, you should have the options bar show up. By default, that option next the show transform control is not typically checked by default. Could you check to see if it's checked on your computer? If it's not, you can check it, and that will enable you to see the transform controls, which is the outer border of every layer. All right.
Okay.
that is the easy way to or the quick way to resize it. Once you can see it, you simply click on the border and drag to resize, change the size. Yes?
And that is if you in the specific to if you in the move tool.
If you have the move tool, yes. So you move and resize with the move tool. Okay.
But you can also click Control and T.
Yeah, I was just getting to that. So if you don't want to have, you understood the transform control, right, Naomi?
Yes, I did it.
So now some people find that the transform controls get in their way when designing. So they prefer not have it visible, right? If you prefer design like that, but you want to resize the, well, what I just said that was you, Darren, the shortcut Control and T, and what that actually does is it takes you into edit and free transform. So if you click free transform, it does the exact same thing as clicking on the boundary or the transform controls once you have that option visible, and it allows you to resize your layer. Cool. So that's two methods you have. You can either show transform controls and do it directly if you move to, or you can have it hidden and go to the free transform option whenever you need to resize your layer, the object. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's
Any
it.
other questions, concerns? None? Everybody good with that? Okay. Today we're going to move on to something else, which you're going to encounter quite a bit when working with images, especially, and that is your selection tools. All right. Now, Photoshop includes a number of different selection tools that you would use for different purposes as necessary. Right. So today we're going to go through some of the main ones, and I prepared some images for it. The first one is an apple. Now, just to make it easy, I want to go too far for the images. So I Google search red apple, and this one was actually the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 one in the list. Yeah. So if you want to get the exact same thing, you don't have to. But I'm going to save this image, and that's this, which we're going to be working with. We're going to actually select the red apple out from the background, right? I'm going to find another image as well. Go back. I'm going to look for, I like to use a car for this. So let's look for, let's look for sports car. Wait, hold on. Let me just ensure that you guys are seeing the right thing. All right. Okay. Again, I just searched for sports car and I selected one of the earlier ones on the list. So it shouldn't be too difficult if you want to get the same image. All right. Let's get it saved so we can open it up. All right, guys. Now, why would you want to use a selection tool in Photoshop? Can anybody tell me? Why would you want to select anything in Photoshop? Nobody has a clue? All right. So you might want to select an object if you want to, or a part of an object, if you want to move it or manipulate it by itself, you want to use it in a design without its background, without the other elements. All right. Now, most of you would be familiar with your basic selection tools already if you've used any image editing software, such as Paint. All right. And that's the second tool on our toolbar, which is your marquee tools. Everybody can find those, right? So the main ones that we're going to be looking at is the rectangular marquee and the elliptical marquee. Just like the rectangular shape tool and the elliptical shape tool, that would allow you to make a rectangular or square selection or an elliptical or circular selection. All right. So selecting the rectangular marquee first, click and drag and make a selection. Everybody sees that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, what can I do with a selection? We can do different things. One of the easiest things is we can make it into a new layer. All right. So with my selection tool still active, I'm going to right click on my selection and let's use this option, layer via copy. What this does, if you look at my layers palette now, previously I had only one layer, layer 1. Now everybody can see layer 2, right? Now let's see what layer 2 is. Layer 2 is just my selection without any of the extra pieces. Everybody sees that?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that is your rectangular marquee. The elliptical marquee is similar. Elliptical marquee, you click and drag to make a selection. All right. And let's go layer by a copy. And this time we have a layer that looks like that. Straightforward enough, right? Any questions on that?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you, Autumn, for answering. The rest of the class is silent today. All right. So what if we wanted to select just the car? Nothing else, none of the background, none of the road, just the visuals of the car itself and the tires. Can anybody tell me how they think we would go about doing that?
We have to use the quick selection tool.
The what tool?
Quick selection tool.
The quick selection tool. All right. So which one is the quick selection tool? That was you, Cedric? Tell us,
Yes.
which is the quick selection tool? If you describe it to us how to get to it.
It's the second one under the marquee tool.
Okay, so it's the second one on the marquee tool, which is the fourth tool if you have them in one vertical line coming down. All right. It's bundled with the magic wand tool. So if you see the magic wand, press and hold on it, and you will see the quick selection tool. All right. Everybody can find that. Let me know if you have any difficulties.
Yeah.
All right. Now the quick selection tool makes it easy. All right. It allows you to just click and drag to make a selection, and using smart algorithms, Photoshop is able to guess what you're trying to select and make a pretty good selection. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be 100% correct all the time. As you can see, it's actually including a few little elements that I had not wanted to include, but I have a full stretch. Okay, everybody sees that? Now, and rather than explain everything I'm doing, I'm just going to finish the selection so you can get the idea of what we're trying to accomplish with the magic one, with the quick selection tool, okay? Subtract. All right. So I've made a quick selection, right, with my quick selection tool. Everybody saw what I did, right? How I was able to do that. Actually, I'm the wrong way. Yes? Anybody didn't quite get that? All right. Now, with my tool still selected, get the mirror, right? I'm going to right click and layer via copy. Now, if I were to remove my background layer, I have a crude selection, but again, just the car by itself. Everybody got that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Now that's the quick selection tool. That may not be your go-to tool. That might be the tool you use to start making your selection. And then you may have to come and fine tune it with another tool. Anybody want to tell me what other selection tools that we have that we might want to use to fine tune a selection like that? Let's go back to our. Yeah. So that's my basic selection. So like that, basic selection. Any suggestions? All right, let me show you another tool. So the third tool, we sort of skipped it, is our lasso tools. All right, let me know if you guys find it. It's bundled, it's three tools together. We have the plain lasso tool, we have the polygonal lasso, and we have the magnetic lasso. Everybody can find those tools, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the lasso tools, and actually right now I'm actually going to remove my quick selection. So I have nothing selected and I'm just going with the lasso tool, right? From scratch. So the lasso tool is a tool that allows you to make a custom selection. And what you do with it is you click on the border where you want the edge of your selection to be, to make a point, and you move around the border, clicking and making points in straight line increments as you go along the edge or the perimeter of your object, right? So again, in the interest of time, I'm going to do a really, really quick selection of the car, right? Now, what I'm explaining how to use is actually the polygonal lasso tool. And today for homework, I have a little exercise for you guys. I want you to find a photo similar to what I have working with now. I mean, an image of a car, an image of a flower, an image of something else. Find something that you're interested in, right? And then I want you to make a selection. You will have a pretty good idea of what your image is to be comprised of by the end of the class. But I want you to make a selection. I want you to try it first with the lasso tool, then with the polygonal lasso tool, then with the magnetic lasso tool. And then in the next class, I want you guys to give me an analysis and let me know which tool is your favorite, which one you have get the best results with. Everybody got that?
Yes, sir.
What's some of you not got it? Nobody else didn't get the homework?
Yes, I got it.
All right, cool.
Yes, I got them.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so now for you to close your selection, you basically go all the way around and the selection is closed when you get back to the original starting point. So don't lose track of it. And when you get back to it, you put your mouse over it. Notice my lasso icon gets a little circle when it's right over it. That indicates that the selection is now going to close. Everybody sees that? Right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we click to make the selection. Once you've closed your selection, you notice the matching hands, that little black and white dotted lines that's running along the image. We call that the matching hands. That shows you where your selection is, right? Now, if I were to right click, layer by a copy, remove the background layer, that is my car selection by itself. A little bit dirty around the edges. You can see I have some square tires, but You get the idea. Any questions on that?
How do you clean it?
How do I clean it? Well,
Yes, it's this.
okay, how you would clean it really is, you would not work in a class with people sitting by, and you would actually take your time. Now, what I'm actually doing is using the zoom tool. I'm using the shortcuts Control and Space and clicking so I can zoom in, all right? And when you're making a selection, you would ensure that you go as close as possible to the edges. In other words, how you would clean it up would be to take your time and make a proper selection. So you see where I sort of run along the edge there, you would take your time and do it, but we just don't have time for you to sit down and look at me select the car for half an hour. But
Okay.
in the next class, I do want to see some of you guys' selections. I want to see your find an image. Like I said, you will try the different tools, and I want you to get me your best selection. So all you need to do is open up the image, right? You want to have your layers palette, your layers panel visible, right? You're using the Lasso tools. Again, my go-to lasso tool is the polygonal lasso, right? You may have a different preference, and you click to make a selection. So you click, go back to the beginning to make a selection. Once you have your selection, to get it onto a new layer by itself, all right, you would right click and click on layer via copy. That would copy the pixels that were selected, right? And put it into a new layer. Just like this. Everybody understand that?
Yep.
Okay. Let me just quickly run through and let you know how the other tools work, so at least you're not too lost when it's time for homework. So we got the polygonal lasso. The lasso tool, for those of you who have a straight hand and some artistic skill, you might like using the lasso tool. It also come in handy if you have a drawing tablet or you're using a touch device, all right? But pretty much what you do is you click and drag to make a selection. Yeah, I know. I use the mouse. Might not be the best tool for the job, right? Like I said, if you find a better way to do it, let me know. But there we go. That is my selection. I'm not gonna edit it layer via copy. The straight 2-second selection with the lasso tool, and that's how we do it. You click and drag to make a selection. All right. Everybody got that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. The final tool, final lasso tool, is the magnetic lasso. Can anybody tell me about the magnetic lasso? What about you, Darren?
Well, the magnetic lasso is like when you click one point and you click to the next point, like just connecting.
That's the magnetic or the polygonal?
Magnetic.
You sure? Okay, the magnetic lasso is a special tool. Let me show you. So the magnetic lasso you would use, and they should have a, the magnetic lasso you would use on the boundaries of color. So in between the red of the car and the background, you would click right on the boundary, right? And the magnetic lasso would find the boundary, the border, right, of the color and stick to it magnetically. So actually right now, I'm not doing any clicking. I am just moving my mouse. I've made one point, which is at the very beginning. I'm just moving my mouse along the edge of the car, right? And the points are showing up where they need to automatically. I'm not doing any of the clicking. What I'm actually doing is, I did mention the shortcuts that I was using, Control and Space to zoom in so I can get a closer view of the car. And when I get to the edge of the document like this, if I press the space bar on my keyboard, notice it changes my cursor to this hand tool. So I can actually click on the image and drag it to get a different view, right? And I'm continuing along. Again, another quick and dirty selection. but I just want to give you the idea. Like I tell you, in the next class, you will tell me your preferred tool among the lasso tools, right? And there are times when you might want to actually you might have to use the magnetic lasso. It might be the best tool for a job. The plain lasso may just be the best tool for a job, but I typically can get away with using only the polygon here. All right, once we get back to our original point now, click. We have our matching and selection. Yeah, everybody can see my selection. Not sure how visibility is over Zoom.
Yeah.
But if I go right click, there via copy. This is it. Again, it started to fail where the color wasn't so defined at the edges, like the black of the wheels mixed with the black of the road with the black of the shadows under the car. You couldn't really tell where the wheel was stopping and starting. That is where you're gonna have to use your imagination and make something happen. All right. But for the most part, you have the car selected, isolated by itself as an object, separate from the background. Yes.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
No, sir.
No. Why would you want to do something like that?
To make memes.
To make memes. Well, yes, to make memes. I'm going to show you also what if you were doing something. I'm going to drag this onto my new document, right? And just so we know what we're working with, I know we're looking at the blank document now, but this is actually remember from Tuesday. I will label things so you can find it. You can understand what it is. All right, so this is actually a flyer, right? And I wanted to cut the car out from its image so I could use it on my flyer. That is an example of a use case scenario, right? Okay, we have 6 minutes before our scheduled break. All right, so let's do the last two selection tools. We sort of touched on it earlier with the quick selection tool. Who suggested the quick selection tool? That was Cedric.
Yes.
Cedric, you were in the first class?
No, I wasn't there.
Okay, all right, cool. But you seem to have a pretty good idea about what's going on. So I assume you use Photoshop already, at least a little bit.
Yep.
All right, cool. Okay, so since it was you who originally brought up the quick selection tool, could you just tell us how we would use the quick selection tool to select that car? Just walk us through it. No? You still there? All right.
Well, you take the cursor and you like drag it around the object.
Right, around the edges of the object so that it can find the edge. It uses a technique similar to the magic wand to find the edges of the object, right? So you don't have to go trying to find it yourself, but you just move the tool around close to the edges of the object and over the areas that you want selected, and it will intelligently make a selection for you. For the most part, this is one of the quickest tools that you can use to make a selection. Although sometimes it doesn't give you exactly what you want, and then you have to come and do some selection modification. And I will explain a little bit more about selection modification in the second part of the class. But pretty much what it is you can see that I have a selection, but I can edit it, right? With the quick selection tool, I can use the subtract from selection and actually remove a part that was previously selected. Yeah. Well, let's say I made a mistake and I took out too much, right? I can go in my options bar, switch to add to selection, and come back and add something to my selection that was previously removed or that wasn't selected before. Yeah, everybody sees that? Now again, we have a quick rough selection. Let's go layer by a copy. Yep. That is a quick magic quick selection. Right? Everybody got that?
Yes.
Yes.
The last tool is the magic wand tool. And can anybody tell me how the magic wand tool works? Okay, so the magic wand tool selects areas that are of the same color. All right. So if I were to simply click on an area of red, right, it will select all of the areas in that image that are similarly colored. Right. Now, if I want to increase the range of my selection, like right now, I clicked on the dark red, it's only selecting the dark red, right? If I wanted it to select more, the setting I would change is in my option bar, and it's called the tolerance. Let's increase the tolerance to 100 from 32, right? And I'm gonna click again on the same dark red area. Oh, that might be too much. Now you can see a bit more being selected, right? So that image might not be the best one to use the magic wand tool on. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break. All right. It's now 5:18. We'll come back at 5:25. And then we will continue with the magic wand tool, and I will give you guys a challenge to work on from. Okay, everybody good with that?
Okay.
Yes.
So take a break, drink some water, drink some juice, get a quick bite, and then we'll come back for 5:25. All right, see you guys then.